Welcome back to the channel where we discuss the creative uses of AI, and the musician in me is happier than he has been in 30, 40 years. When I was a young lad, I wanted to be a music composer. I was going to be the next, you name it. Danny Elfman? I don't know. But I loved writing big, lush orchestral things, and I had visions of being able to have choirs of people singing my brilliant whatevers in beautiful harmonies. And although synthesizer and sampling technology back then, early 90s, was great and advancing, I still couldn't tell it what to sing. I could get choir sounds, and I told myself they sounded just like real people, but there's never been any way for me to say, hey, I want you, opera singer, I want you, tenor, bass, you, choir, I want this whole section here to sing these notes with these words, until now. What you heard at the beginning of the video is just scratching the surface of the cool stuff I'm going to show you today. And I have talked about Ace Studio a couple of times on this channel. They have a very innovative way of producing music. It's able to convert MIDI notes to singing vocals along with lyrics. You can import MIDI files, you can enter the notes right within Ace Studio, or you can even sing them yourself and then have them converted to MIDI notes, which can then be assigned to any of over 80 voices that are included with the program. That's right, I said 80 voices. Now Ace is vast and it has all kinds of cool features and things like that, and this particular video isn't designed to be a tutorial for Ace Studio, but in showing you what I'm going to show you, I'm pretty sure you're going to learn something. If you've never seen Ace Studio, or if you haven't visited it in a few months, you're going to want to check this out because it's almost a whole new program because of the quality of the voices. And before I dive in, I really want to give a great big shout out to Ace Studio, not only for sponsoring this video, but for spending personal time with me over this weekend to really dig down into the particulars of how to get the best out of this program. A deeper understanding of some of the controls that I really didn't have a great understanding of before when I was doing my demo videos, so I just kind of glossed over those features. But now I understand how to use them in a way to get exactly the results I want, and I'm going to touch on some of that today as I show you this stuff. This is the basic interface. You have your tracks over here. You can bring in MIDI tracks, you can bring in audio tracks, you convert the audio tracks into MIDI, you can mix them all up. Over here are your voices. Right now it says pre-made. There are 74 voices that come with the program. We're going to be focusing on the ones that say new next to them because they are freaking awesome. And in particular, we're going to focus a little bit on these Clara Dark and Clara Epic. You heard a little bit of her at the beginning, and you're about to hear her again. Clara Solace is an actual singer for video games and film. You can check her out at her website down here. And what's really cool about this relationship she has with Ace is that she benefits every time her voice is used. So there's no unauthorized borrowing of any voice. She worked closely with Ace to produce two incredible models. One Clara Epic, which is focused on the English language, and Clara Dark, which is based on more gibberish words to give the lyrics more of a mystic feel. Here's an example. This is from MIDI. Absolutely freaking gorgeous. Now, if we look closely at what's going on here, these are the notes, and on those notes, you can see the words that are being sung. In this case, like I said, it's pretty much nonsense words. Toe, rail, array, a, run, whatever, and it goes across. These little squiggles represent the modulation of the voice that you can hear if you listen again and watch as the cursor goes by. You can see how the modulation of the voice coincides with what's here. We have absolute control over that, by the way. We can flatten the modulation out completely. We can add new vibrato however we'd like. We can change the frequency of the vibrato, how much it fades in and out, how loud it is. See if you can hear the difference. This little dip right here is indicative of her style, where she goes, ah. I can't do it, but she can do it, and that's what's going on there. If I was to flatten that out, you wouldn't hear that anymore. Let's listen again to what's happening right there. Yeah, you hear that. Now, if I was to take the modulation down and play this, nothing. So we can undo that and give it back its flair. Trying it out with other voices is as simple as just dragging them onto the track. So as great as Clara sounds, so do some of these others. Let's listen to Sky, which is described as a warm, clear, lo-fi, breathy voice. We'll just drop that in here and we'll play it again. So it's a little bit softer. Just playing with the volume a little there. Let's do a different one. Let's choose Zalo. Let's sample a male voice. We'll drag in Robert, and let's listen to what he sounds like without making any changes. So in that case, we might want to take out that modulation because his voice isn't trained on that little thing, and so that's the technical musical term for that, I think. So if we were going to use him, we might actually bring that modulation down a good bit and maybe just play with the vibrato instead. Much more appropriate for his voice. And I know we've got a bunch of reverb on there, but I love that cinematic reverb so much. But you have choices. You have cinematic, you have church, you have hall, you have room. These are new additions to the program since I last updated the channel on this. When you click on a voice track now, you have the voice parameters here where you can add other voices to it to actually flesh out and change the bass sound of the voice on that track. And now you have an effects tab where you can add EQ, compression, de-essing, and reverb with 4 different categories: lead, lead bright, backing, and choir, which we're going to be looking at shortly. I just Control-Z'd my way back to having the Clara dark voice there. Let me show you how easy it is to flesh this out with other voices, and then we're going to look at the choir feature, which is just absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to take this track and we're going to duplicate it just by right mouse clicking and clicking on duplicate. And now I'm going to add a male voice to sing along with her, and I want it to be an octave lower. So let's change this second track. We'll drag Aaron in. We'll just listen to what it sounds like just like that. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two of them because they're both singing up there in that same register. Let's go ahead and take Aaron down an octave. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to select all the notes. I'm going to hold down the shift key and the down arrow key, and now that's going to go down an octave. And now let's go back to the beginning and see what it sounds like that way. Because I was using that original Clara track, we heard that little thing in Aaron's track, and it was kind of screwy. He doesn't need to sound like that, so I am going to take his track and I'm going to lower that modulation down. I'm going to add the vibrato just like we did before. I'm going to bring the frequency down to around 4. I just like that. That's a personal choice. Let it fade in a little bit, make it not quite so loud there. Listen again. Much better, it just lets her do that. We're going to make sure the Aaron layer is chosen, and this is the note, I believe, right here. Our note selector is here. And what if we took this note and just see what it sounds like by itself? Let's take out that little extra note for him because it doesn't work for him. And honestly, it sounds a little glitchy for Clara too. I'm going to take it out just to see. I'm going to smooth it out just a little more even. I'm going to take that little modulation part that's a little screwy and just bring it down and see if that changes it. Yes, much better. But let's flesh out Aaron's part a little bit and let's play with this choir feature. So we've got Aaron's track. All we have to do to make it a choir track is to click on voice and click on turn on choir mode. Now we've got a little stage here and we've got one voice which represents Aaron. Well, if we're going to do a choir, right, we want several voices here. But before we do that, I'm going to expand right here because this allows us to blend voices. So for example, I could bring in another Aaron, except I can change a little bit of his timbre here. I can make adjustments so it's not exactly the same Aaron. I can also change his volume in relation to the others, and I can also bring in other male voices, which is recommended because it's a choir after all. So we bring these in. I'm going to bring in even another one here without even previewing them. You can see up here they're represented with these little dots. We're able to adjust the spread and the placement of this. So if you imagine the choir being on the stage, you can place these folks wherever you want to. So I'm going to place them in the back. I'm going to do the spread. The room effect is on. I'm going to choose a church for that. And let's listen to what this is sounding like. I'm going to change the offset a little bit to make it a little bit wider. So you can hear that group of men back there. So now let's duplicate this choir track. We'll go down here, we'll select all the notes, and we'll hold down Shift and up arrow to bring them up an octave, and then we're going to replace all these guys with girls. So let's delete, and delete, and delete, and delete, and delete. We can start with Clara as a bass. We'll use the epic voice. Now I can delete the male voice here. There has to be at least one voice in there, so I had to add one so I could then delete this one. And then, once again, I can just drag in other female voices that I know would probably complement this. Play with the spread here, move them maybe up to the front. Let's see what we got. So there's a great opportunity to add some harmonies here so that everybody's not singing in unison. Let's just use this track here for an example and find an opportunity for some harmony. And then just adjust the notes right here to where you want them. And the great thing is you can preview the notes just by clicking on them so you can hear exactly where the note is. So I've just adjusted those notes. I'm going to take out these little middle notes here and hope it doesn't screw things up too much. I got to fix that placement of the notes. I want to play with splitting the note here. I've never done that, but I want to bring this down a half step. So let's see what happens if I click on note slice here. There we go. And then move this down. Not a half step, a whole step. Great. So let's just listen to that real quick all together like. So hopefully you're starting to see the ridiculously unlimited possibilities. Okay, well that's all good for that nonsense words. How about English? Some of us speak that language. What about that? Do we have any examples of that? Like really? Okay, I get it. You've made your point. Let's check it out. As I mentioned, the Clara Epic voice is trained on English. The Clara Dark is trained on those more nonsense words. To show you some more cool examples, let's use their template feature, which is where I got that other piece. Templates are like a little project file that you can use as a starting point or just to learn how things are working. In this case, you can download new templates by clicking on Browse All Templates here. It'll bring you to a page on their site where you can preview and download these templates. For example, I demonstrated this one in the last video I did. And all those voices are AI generated. And while you're here, there's also a library of voices that you can use and preview that are community made. Sky, who we've used in our example, is one of the community voices. If you want to hear what these sound like, you can click the play button.
Yeah, breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles.
We're just about to play with that.
I'm at the payphone trying to call.
Did you have to go to jail? But your house still up for sale. Did you?
These aren't voice models in the traditional sense. These are models that are trained to go from text to voice, not voice conversion. So back in ACE, let's load up this 7 rings template. And here's what this sounds like.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles. Girls with tattoos.
Okay, so we previewed that a second ago. We're using what looks to be the Elira voice here. Let's go to the other voices. Let's choose Clara Epic. We'll just drag that in here and we'll see how she sounds.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubble.
I'll tell you what, I'll just solo her out so we won't hear the music. And just to be fair, I'll add a little bit of an effect here just to flesh it out, just add a little reverb. So the lyrics, which you can see down here, are breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble. And so let's see what this sounds like.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble.
All right, now let's listen to another voice. Let's choose Sky and see what she sounds like there.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble.
Here's Emma.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble.
I'd say that is the most accurate one so far. So let's use Emma as our lead there. Let's duplicate the track. Give her somebody to sing with. Before, we'll go down here and select all these notes. We'll hit shift and down arrow so we can bring it down an octave, and we will choose, let's say, Drex here. We'll see what they sound like together.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble.
And why don't we turn Drex into a choir track? We'll go to voice, we'll go to choir track, and then we'll drag some more of these guys on here. Load in Trey, we'll load in Dom, we'll put in Aaron, why not? Let's increase the offset, let's bring them into a church. Let's increase the spread. We'll put them back here in the back, maybe the spread even more. And let's see what we sound like now.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble.
All right, so she's getting a little drowned out by those people. Certainly we can up her volume, but we can also control her overall energy and tension down here. I'm going to see if I can just raise the energy of the whole song. So I'll select all the notes and drag this up a little bit and see if that adds a little punch to her.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble. Lashes and diamonds, ATM machines. Buy myself all of my favorite things.
We might also try fleshing out Emma's part a little bit by using the vocal doubling feature. All we have to do is right mouse click on the track and say create vocal doubles. And we'll just go with the defaults there. And just like that, we've got duplicates of this track with a little bit of variety between them. So now let's listen.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble. Lashes and diamonds, ATM machines. Buy myself all of my favorite things.
Okay, that's more the mix I'm wanting. Just for grins, let's duplicate that choir track again and make a female version. We'll go down here, select all the notes, shift up arrow, get rid of all these guys. I wonder if there's a quicker way to do this. We'll drag in Carolyn. By the way, you can mix and match female voices and male voices. It doesn't matter. This is just a personal choice I'm making right now. We'll add in a Clara Epic because it doesn't really matter if we're hearing her syllables that closely or that accurately. We'll just grab Celestia. We'll put in Valentina. There's no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. Increase the offset. Let's see what this mix is sounding like.
Breakfast at Tiffany's and bottles of bubbles, girls with tattoos who like getting in trouble. Lashes and diamonds, ATM machines. Buy myself all of my favorite things.
So let's skip ahead and find another little cool harmony opportunity.
Write my own checks like I write what I sing.
Okay, it seems like there's something we can do there. Why don't we use the female choir track? Let's see what we got.
Rather be tied up with calls and not strings. Write my own checks like I write what I sing. My wrist stop watching, my neck keeps glossy. Make big deposits, my gloss is popping. You like my hair, you think just what it. I see it, I like it, I want it, I got it, yeah, I want it, I got it, I want it, I got it, yeah, I want it.
So if you have ever wanted to be able to control an ensemble of people with a huge variety of voices and timbres with all of the control of the modulation and the vibrato and the pitch, then now is your time. It's really hard for me to overstate how exciting it is to play with something like this and hear those quality voices come out of your typing and your fingertips. This has truly created a creativity explosion in my musical head now that I realize that the composing dreams I had 30 years ago can now be done with just one person. If these are the types of solutions you like to learn about, well, why not subscribe to this channel? Because creative AI like this is what we talk about all the time.
If you subscribe now, I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you do not, I will look for you. I will find you. And I